Hi, I'm Ben from the Self-Tape Audition Studio. More and more Aussie actors are moving to LA every year. So I thought it'd be a great idea to speak to some of these actors in LA to give you some tips. So tell me, why did you decide to move to LA?
I decided to move to LA based on the advice of my Australian agent. I'm 5'9". I was a model. I kind of have an aesthetic that is very narrow cast in Australia. And she just said, with the kind of credits that you have and the experience that you have, you're better suited to that market. So let's start looking at that for you. And I'd also had management over here for a couple of years, and most of my auditions were coming from the States versus the Australian market.
Yeah, right. Why do you think there's a growing number of Aussie actors leaving Australia and heading to the States?
It just comes down to the fact that you can be a working actor here without being super famous, I think. And you can do a different kind of work here that's not readily available in Australia. So you're more likely, you have a better chance of making your primary income as a performing artist here than you do at home. Whereas at home, unless you're creating things yourself, there's a smaller market. It's a very cliquey market. And so I just think people feel like they have a lot more freedom out here, or they're really well known for a role in Australia. And it's very hard to get out of only 23 million people's conception of who you are. And that trickles down to the casting directors.
Yeah, cool. And so what process did you go through in your mind as far as deciding, I'm going to leave Australia and go to the States?
I have an amazing partner who also wanted to come out here as well. I've been with him for 12 years, and he enjoyed my modeling career, and he works in sport, and that's another huge factor. There's a lot of things in his industry out here as well. So mentally it was something that we came to together. It was what we wanted to do with our next chapter. I always say no mortgage, no babies, no worries. So we got on a plane. So there was that mentality, and then there was also, just I've always traveled. I've always lived away from my near and dearest, so it wasn't too hard for me to come out here, basically.
So speaking about that kind of support, what do you substitute for that kind of support in America, like your family support or friends, or how do you deal with that?
So we've developed a really large network of Aussies out here. We have a core group we call our family. But it's also a very generous group, and everybody I meet out here, whether they're American, British, Australian, generally people are coming from somewhere else. So you've been looked after by somebody else, so you'll offer that support to the next person coming through. Which I found that when I got here, I was filing for a green card as an artist of extraordinary ability. That sounds very daunting. Then just being out and about at different Australian events and different industry events, meeting other people who'd gone through the exact same process, and them saying, you know what, I've just done that. Here's examples of what I had to do, and this will help you. And yeah, there's a huge community out here. People don't realize there's a lot of us, but the people who come out here have been through something, so they're very often genuine and generous. So it's, good place to land, soft place to land.
And can you talk a little bit about the kind of pathway that you went down visa-wise? Because that's obviously a really diverse, different path. Like there's 1,000 different options you can go down. So what was your unique?
Sure. So Australians, if you have a master's degree and get sponsorship, we have an exclusive visa called the EB3. If you're just coming out of university, say you just graduated NIDA or something like that, you can come out on a J1 working holiday visa. It's a cultural exchange visa. You are not permitted to work in the arts. In that sense, there's a lot of restrictions, but it's a good place to come out if you do have management here and are auditioning for roles that will get you an O1 visa. It kind of gives you the freedom to have a day job and do that if you feel like you have strong management that can get you in the room for those big roles. And then the O1 visa you can file through sponsorship with management, but then you need to have deal memos which can give you a timeline of how long you're going to have work in your fields So that can be up to 3 years. So you can have multiple deal memos. You could be working on a web series out here and have a deal memo, then that'll take you over the next 3 years so that you have work in your field. But because you're not sponsored by an employer, you're sponsored by your management, you are able to audition for other roles. Saying that, there are networks out here like NBC, for example, that will not see you for supporting roles based on your O1. They will only sponsor you for a role that's more substantial as an employee. And then there's what I stayed on, I should say, which is my green card. So the O1 is that you have a job offer or you have potential in your beginning in your field. For the green card, you have to stand on your own, but it does give you freedom it's permanent residency. So you have freedom to do whatever you want when you get it, but you just have to prove that you have notoriety in your field. So there's 10 criteria. You have to meet 3. Most lawyers won't take your case unless you meet 5 to 7 of them.
Now, jumping back a little bit to you getting your US managers initially, can you talk a little bit about that process?
Management came about for me. I met Matt Skrobelak, who you've probably all heard whispers about, is the vice president of casting for CBS. And I got a really good response from him, and he had managers that he works with that he recommended me to, and fostered a relationship between my Australian management and that company. And I was with them auditioning from Australia and then a little bit out here. But again, I wasn't on a visa that I could work on for about 2.5 years. So getting management out here really can depend on how willing your Australian management is to work with a US manager. Most smart ones are, because if they have already fostered relationships and they present you talent to them, then they're going to negotiate a percentage deal with them. So if you have somebody who's worth their salt, they should be willing to work with the US, because ideally they want you to be as successful as possible. A lot of friends of mine come out here and take meetings. They can be set up through, friends of friends, contacts, people who have management already might introduce you to their manager, or your management in Australia could set up 5 or 6 different meetings with people that they have relationships with. You come out, you take those meetings, you see who you like, see who likes you, and then go home and start auditioning. They love to see good self-tapes, because that's what inevitably, even here, you self-tape for roles that are casting out of LA. You're never going to stop self-taping, basically. So basically, you need introductions. LA is all about who you know. That old who you know, not what you know kind of thing really hits home when you get here.
So let's go on to the heat. So what is heat? You get that phrase thrown at you quite a lot as an actor. So what does it mean in the LA kind of context?
Heat in the industry, or having good fresh credits, is a tool that a casting director can use when they present you to the producer or the director. At the end of the day, the audience creates the character and also creates the funding for the film. So if you have heat or experience or some amazing sizzle with, or like dailies from an amazing director, a casting director is not only going to be able to send your audition, but this is what she's doing now, and here's some dailies. At the end of the day, it comes down to the bucks, basically, and the more momentum you have behind you as a performer, and the more of a sound reputation that you project, that's what's useful for a casting director. At the end of the day, your whole career is based around your relationship with casting directors, and in the early stages, and then the bigger you get, then people start asking for you.
Yeah, cool. So how do you generate heat when you're starting out?
Make sure your management knows that you're willing to go out for any role. As long as you get 3 lines, don't be shy. Don't think that you're beyond that, because a credit from a reputable network on IMDb and, your management to be able to say, she worked with this director, they were very happy with her, you want to see her. And then you go from your 3 lines to your 5 pages to your recurring guestie, that kind of stuff. So that's a little way. The other way is if you're really starting out and you don't necessarily have the strongest management, that kind of thing, that can't get you in the room for those one two liners is really, really hunt out good new creative people who have a drive and a passion, who are creating short form content that they're going to put into festivals. You know, so you want to look at people who have a game plan for their work. You want to read the script and believe in it, and then you want to bust your butt and do a performance of a lifetime. So if they do get it into a festival, even if it isn't the most amazing short film that wins all the awards, you'll win the award for best actor for that festival. Like, that's your mentality, is just always doing good work wherever you can with the best people you can do it with.
Tell me about some of the places that you can go to study in LA, and if you're studying anywhere at the moment.
Cool. There's, oh my God, it's a labyrinth studying in Los Angeles. You can end up at someone's, some casting director who's trying to make some money out of you, who's giving you horrendous advice that doesn't lead you to any good work. Or you can do all the masters here, or you can go up to New York and, do everything in anything, basically. I am currently, so I'm a comedic-based performer, so I'm doing Groundlings at the moment, where Will Forte, Will Farrell, Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, they're all come out of this vein of comedy, and that's, for me, like, being in LA, you're like, who do I love? Whose career do I want to emulate? You can go to where they trained and work with the people that they trained with, or they're in theater troupes, It's quite incredible, like, who comes in and does guest nights at the Groundlings. It's pretty amazing.
You slightly touched on it a little bit before about self-tapes.
Yep.
So what's it like auditioning over there in LA, and where do self-tapes fit into the equation?
Auditioning here is a completely different animal. Even with self-tapes, they should kind of know that you have your pages in your hand, which is very different to Australia. In the room, the casting director expects you to be following along with your pages, just with your hand in some form, because they see so many people, and so many people are doing so many auditions every day, that they never know when you're doing great work and you're going to miss a line and have to fumble for it. So they sit on the, I've got friends who are casting directors, and they're like, we sit on the edge of our chair waiting for you to drop your line if you're not using your pages. So even if you come up with a fake way to do it, because you should still be off book anyway, it's kind of this, oxymoron. So that's a huge difference. I really recommend looking up Rose Byrne's audition for Get Him to the Greek, where she's got the character's point of view down. She's got an idea of where the scene's going. She's got a few lines that you can tell are kind of her darling, where she feels like she can inject her humor in the character, and then the rest of the time she's freaking reading it, So look at that, and you'll get an understanding of, they really don't want a polished performance here. They want to get an idea of who you are and where you would fit in the character, especially at first rounds. But self-tapes is still huge. A lot of the time, you're sending stuff back to Australia. So there's a huge self-tape community here. And then also, if the casting broad enough here, they'll want self-tape submissions first. They'll want to just, it costs them a lot of money and time to run an audition here. And there's thousands of submittals. But if they really want to go broad, they're still going to ask to send in tapes, because it's a lot faster for them to, like, click on you, your headshot, watch you for 10 seconds, and if you don't grab, they're on to the next one. And then, your self-tape game is still really huge here.
So what would you say is the main difference between the Australian market and the LA market?
It's a larger market, and it's more diverse, and it covers more mediums than just film and TV.
So can you explain a little bit about the different kind of periods throughout the year that certain things happen? For example, pilot season, episodics, and all that, and just explain that timeline for us.
There's a few different key times to work in this city. So they cast from January to March for pilots. From March to June, they shoot the pilots. Then they go to upfronts. So they go to New York, and all the networks present all the shows, and they see who gets bought and what gets made and what gets deals. And others that have tested really well go straight to 13 or 26 episodes. And then from End of July through to October, they start shooting all of those episodes, and that's when more roles get released. There are different cities that are popping up across the states that have great tax brackets. So if you go and base yourself in Louisiana, where they make a few different shows and a couple of movies a year, and you get relationships with casting directors there. Same thing with Toronto. So if you're not ready to get a O1 visa, you could get your 2-year working holiday visa and go to Canada. And they don't have as good royalties. They don't pay as well. But that's another option. But you're building US credits. If you have the papers, that's a good way to do it. Like, you don't want to just come out for pilot season cold. Films like playing craps. At the casino, shooting the dice. Like, if you're not coming with credits, or if you're not a young actor, like if you are a young actor who has some credits, like I'm saying, if you're under 22, you're way more likely to have management that can pitch you as fresh talent to do, a Disney movie or a feature film.
So tell us a little bit about the acting community over there. What's that like?
I would say the acting community is kind of similar to here, where you have people who are very eccentric and, blindly passionate and, just go to cosplay and be like, I'm going to be a movie star. And then you have people who are very serious about the craft and, produce theatre as well. They're not solely trying to be famous. And then there's a lot of comics, actually. Like, if you're at all interested in being a comic, being a stand-up, there's an amazing network of people here who are actors and comics. A lot of them go through the improv schools like IO and UCB and Groundlings and form teams, and then start shooting, vines. They start shooting, just short-form content. And, like, from that, a couple of friends of mine are now writing for At Midnight, and another one in the same improv group is now writing for New Girl. I definitely would say that it is broader. The community is a lot larger, but there's a lot more, because you have permission to be focused on your craft here and take yourself seriously. You're not just because it's a genuine, real industry that has been nurtured over 100 years. You say you're an actor and you're like, okay, I understand. And then, what's your background? What do you do? And you network and support each other. You go into the room and you see, you're in the line, and, in Australia, there might be like 4 U's, here there's 15. But then you have to realize there's also 1,500 others who were submitted by their management that didn't even get into the room. So you can never take that for granted.
Yeah, cool. What would you say is the biggest struggle about being in LA?
I've personally skipped a lot of the things that I hear a lot of other people have trouble with, which is finding, good, solid people. I think coming from Australia, you kind of skip that a little bit. The biggest struggle is not letting the enormity of what's around you swallow you up. Not getting deflated. I think it's the same. I think it's the same thing an artist struggles with in Australia. I think that if you're looking for an end game, if you have an idea of, I'm going to tick all these boxes in my life and that's going to equal me being Jennifer Lawrence, you're going to die. Like, you're going to come here and you're going to be miserable. Like, if you're coming off a hit show in Australia, and then you come out here and you think you're going to be Margot Robbie because that's a destination, you're going to be really miserable. If you come out here and honor your craft and surround yourself with like-minded people and have a life outside of your craft as well, you're going to flourish. You're going to feel contented because you know that you're fulfilling your passion.
Yeah, cool. Beautiful answer. Thank you. Are there any reasons that you think that Aussie actors shouldn't move to LA?
You shouldn't move to LA if you do not have substantial credits. You shouldn't move to LA if you get your worth from other people. You shouldn't move to LA unless you have some money. or means to make money here. You shouldn't move to LA if you want to be famous. You should go and date a footballer. If you are not an artist, if you do not have a life outside of your passion, don't come here because you're just going to get spat out.
What's your one piece of advice for actors considering to move to LA?
My one piece of advice for actors considering moving to LA, know why you want to come here. Just be willing to experience whatever's coming to you.
Yeah, nice. Anything else you want to say about Aussie actors moving to LA, your journey, anything like that to wrap up?
Yeah, coming here was the best thing I ever decided to do, not just professionally, but personally. If you're coming out here, I guarantee you're going to meet not just beautiful Australians, but other beautiful artists from all over the world. Whatever your experience is in acting at home, you're going to have a whole new one here, and you're going to have to kind of learn the business again from scratch. So don't be afraid to fail. Like, come out here and fail gloriously. Like, come out here and just explore. Like, you know, fuck it. Come over for 6 weeks and take a groundlings class and goof around and meet people. My best friend who's a stuntie just came out, and we're like, let's go get a drink. And I walk into a bar and I have a 30-second conversation with a girl who we have a connection through. And then she's like, this is my friend. He's a stunt coordinator. Turns out he was a stunt coordinator for Avatar. And I grabbed the guy by the wrist because, you know, I have a few tequilas in me. Drag him across the room and I'm like, have you met Laura? You know, and like, I didn't know how huge he was in the industry. She just said, oh, he's a stunt coordinator. I'm like, cool. And then my friend's like, I've been here for 7 hours and I just met the one person I needed to meet in my whole career. And I'm like, welcome to LA.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So anything is possible.
Anything is possible, and just be open and come have a ball.
Yeah, cool.
All on your ass. We all do it.
Are there any resources that you found that are great for people from moving over there?
There's an amazing website called Australians in LA. Turns out we're mostly actors, writers, music composers, DPs, producers, or spouses of. Another great resource is Australians in Film. They hold really great events. You get to mingle. They premiere a lot of Aussie films. You know, you get to meet Russell Crowe. He comes and eats pies with us. You know, he's a great lad. Yeah, and then if you know one Aussie, you know everybody. And an amazing resource, which kind of sounds funny, is a place called Training Mate. It's a circuit training gym that's owned by an Australian, and a lot of Aussies work there, and it's mostly industry people as well. And it's a great place to network and meet people and, you know, get in on a few Barbies here and there, that kind of thing.
Tell us a little bit about the importance of networking in LA.
So the way things go in the States, and this isn't just in acting, it's in all industries. My husband works in sport, and now he works in digital media production. If you don't know somebody to introduce you to somebody else, it's very hard to get a foot in the door. People rely on who they know. They want to know that you know somebody that they know so that they can trust you. Like, it's in Australia, I think you get judged a little bit more on what you know. In the States, it's who you know. They want to know that you're not going to be a coked out psycho and come to set. You know, it's like, oh, you're friends with that person. That makes you a reliable person. So if you are shy, that's fine. Then people will know you as a sweet, reserved person. But when you go to events, pick a buddy who's not shy, who will drag the stunt coordinator across the room to meet you. And then, you know, so it really is. And it's also about not being shy when it comes to following up with the people that you meet. So if you meet somebody, find a means in which that you can touch base with them again. If you are at a social event and you're talking with someone about something non-industry, this is a good way. Just, hi, how are you? What are you into? Don't ask people what they do. So, what did you think about the film we just watched? Or what's some kind of personal experience, or what city did you grow up in? Because 99% people did not grow up in LA. So, oh, you're from Minnesota. Oh my God, I love Fargo. Whatever. Find some kind of common ground to talk to people about, and then lead into understanding where they're from. And then once you know where they're from, you're like, you know what? I'm very interested in that. Can I touch base with you again? And then within 24 hours, send them an email, send them a text, send them a Facebook request, and start generating that network of people, because you never know when you'll get an audition and it'll say who the production company is, and then you Google them and you'll say to your friend, do you know anybody at this place? Yeah, I know Sarah. Okay, I'll tell Sarah that your manager is sending a tape in, so you will get seen. It's work. Be tenacious. You can be shy. You can be shy and sweet. People find that memorable and lovely. You don't have to be brazen. They will find you endearing, and they'll be so happy to have heard from you. So that's my advice for shy people. You're endearing. We love you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us these insights. I really appreciate it. I think people get a lot out of it.